Good morning, good afternoon. This is Musa, Matt Meacham Jr. signing in on Earth. Well, today I will be publishing um, a, a reading. I'll do a reading from one of my books, and the thing is, it's the book that I'm basically working on right now. That book won't be published until the beginning of next year. And the thing is, I will have to put a special notice, and this is be for adults only. And I'm going to do some reading from my book, which is scheduled to be published at the beginning of the year. Uh, that book is in, excuse me, is entitled "The War Has Begun." And again, this book won't be published until the beginning of next year. And I think, made it clear that this is for adults only. And I'll read a portion of that book. Again, it's called "The War Has Begun." John Durham. Now I changed his name. I know I rewrote this, and when I first wrote this book, the main character was John Doohan, but I have changed his name. His name is Malcolm Mwangi, and I'll read a portion of this book. Not a portion of the book, but I'll read a passage from the book. And as I said again, it's called "The War Has Begun." Malcolm Mwangi met Ebola at a hotel in the Congo. Ebola was stunningly beautiful, but a real evil bitch. Oftentimes, evenness is genetically defined, but in her case, it was socially acquired. Ebola's evil was a consequence of social forces which she had no control over. She was raped during the ritual of female circumcision. She had been an active participant in human cannibalism. She had been sold off as a bride for 10 goats, 5 cows, and 2 camels to an ugly old, decrepit man. And she had participated in the lynching of a cattle rustler. Now, these were the events which made her who she was. This happened several years before she escaped from her village in the Congo. When Ebola was a little girl, about 14 years old, it was time for her to get circumcised. in her particular village, it was the men who did the cutting. Well, since it was the custom in this quaint little section of the Congo for this to happen, most of the girls were not bothered with the idea of someone cutting between their legs. But when the male circumciser saw how cute Ebola was, his plan was to fuck her. Fucking the girl is not traditionally what these cutters are supposed to do. But a horny old man fooling around between the legs of a young virgin is going to be thinking about fucking her. And it happened to Ebola. Before the cutter cut her clitoris, he fucked her. But this was just one event which shaped our beautiful bitch. However, the cutter was caught by one of the women peeping into the hut. He was supposed to be cutting her clitoris. Everyone knows that if you are cutting between a girl's legs, she is going to be moaning. So, if you're fucking her, anybody standing around would not know the difference. That's when the cutter, that is what the cutter thought before he circumcised our little virgin. But one of the women who peeped into the tent, and she saw everything, she ran and told the chief. When the cutter came out, a delegation was waiting for him. The women rushed in to dress the defiled and circumcised Ebola, and the cutter was attacked by the villagers with machetes. In fact, they cut him up into pieces, and later that night his body parts were fried and they all ate him. Ebola was given the choice meat, and she devoured every piece of it. Now, this novel takes place in the future. This novel, entitled The War Has Begun, it takes place in the future. But see, it takes place in the future. It takes place in the future 200 years from today, but it takes place on the continent. Again, This novel takes place in the future. And I'll continue to read from this novel on occasion until its publication. This is Musa, Matt Meacham Jr., signing out on Earth